President to meet these family members is Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Acting Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan. There's also a large contingent of other military officials that will be there, generals, lieutenant generals, admiral. So a large group of military officials also there on hand. I want to talk a little bit about the man on the screen, though. That's Scott Andrew Wirtz, 42 years old, from St. Louis. He was among those identified in this attack that killed at least 16, the deadliest on U.S. soldiers in Syria since American forces entered that country back in 2015. His family has described him as fearless in his youth, a personality that filled the room. So certainly an enormous loss for his family and also for our country. This was a patriot, a servant. He was a decorated Navy SEAL. He served 8 years in the Navy as a Navy SEAL, leaving the service as a petty officer, second class, in 2005. Got a job with the Defense Intelligence Agency in February of 2017. And that's where he was in his service to our country when this attack occurred.
The attack occurring, and now responsibility for the attack claimed by ISIS inside Syria. So the potential for the president here in terms of what the discussion of his Syrian policy was, now watching the caskets of American service members killed in Syria come home, watching now the video. I believe part of the rules here is that there is no audio of the service itself, that it is only video. So we'll speak a little bit about what you're seeing and also speak a little bit about the people who gave the last full measure of devotion, as you talked about, Mr. Wirtz. Molly, this is quoting his aunt from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. He was always the type of person who wanted to serve his country. He had the mindset from the get-go, this is what I want to do, and this is what I am doing. He was always more about other people than he was about himself. You see the official party entering the C-17 now that brought the caskets home from overseas back to Delaware. People who don't know Navy SEALs, speaking about Wirtz, don't necessarily think of someone who is full of laughter and love, but he was the kindest and most loving person.
Also worth noting that this has been one family has agreed to allow this to be shown, that of course being the family of Scott Wirtz, but there are other families there being greeted by these dignitaries and also feeling this enormous loss. We're waiting here in a moment. We expect Scott Wirtz to be carried out in this final journey that's being made, and when that happens, we're going to obviously take a pause and just watch that. We are not listening because there's no audio permitted, so we're not hearing the footsteps. And if you're curious as to why that is, it's agreed on that there won't be any audio, so we'll watch essentially in silence this final journey. A little more about Scott Wirtz. He had completed 3 deployments for the Defense Intelligence Agency there in the Middle East. He's won multiple awards, really a long list of achievements: the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, Good Conduct Medal, Defense Service Medals, Rifle Marksmanship Ribbon, Pistol Expert Medal. Just an enormous amount of dedication, not only to the U.S. military, but also in service there following as he's worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency. Let's take a pause and watch.
All right, Scott Wirtz now on his final journey home from Dover Air Force Base back to his hometown of St. Louis. Scott Wirtz had been a Navy SEAL, was now a civilian working for the Defense Intelligence Agency in Syria. You can see the van carrying his casket to the Air Force mortuary there, and the salute of a grateful president. President Trump, along with Secretary Pompeo and others, gathered there on a very cold and wintry Saturday here in January to say goodbye. His cousin quoted as saying he was the ultimate hero. Anyone who serves in the service, especially at that level, you have to have the state of mind, I'm going all in for what I love, my passion, and that was him. Molly, you